Okay, so good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I was having some technical issues, and as I'm having even now, because I can't see myself from the screen. So hopefully, it looks like okay because Simon apparently can see me, and hopefully, it's an issue from my end. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever you are joining us, especially to our friends in Australia. Welcome again back to our February meetup. This month's meetup doing again online. And another topic from Microsoft Azure Services. And it's always good to have you guys with us, joining us and supporting your community. My name is Sam Alevi. I'm a principal consultant with Lab3, one of the Microsoft practices and consulting in Australia and New Zealand, working in ANZ region. And we have a guest speaker with us. Shortly, we'll introduce. But as usual, let's go through the topic which we have for our evenings and meetups. Have a quick catch up on the upcoming events in the next couple of weeks, and then we have some Azure news based on the updates and announcements since the last time we met. And then we move on to the main session and main topic of this evening, which is purely focused on Azure Search Service, part of the cognitive services by Akanksha. In terms of the upcoming events, so the New Breakpoints, if you're familiar with the New Breakpoints is a show done by Simon, who is online, he joined us already, and by Microsoft Australia team. So it's a webcast happening monthly now, and for the latest episode, they picked a quite interesting topic, especially if you are dealing with Java applications and you are thinking about modernizing your applications using Azure services. Then that's something you don't want to miss out. Encouraged to join the session and enjoy the chat and talk and enjoy the experience from the field Simon is sharing. That's quite interesting, especially for those who their organization have lots of Java application, or they are thinking to modernizing those Java applications to cloud services. Then that's gonna be quite interesting session. And as usual, the center place for all the training within the Microsoft stack. So that's a cloud skill training, or as you can see the address on the screen, Cloud Skill Hub. So that's a centralized place by Microsoft, which you can find for any topic, any stack, any tech. If you are working on, it could be Power Apps, Microsoft Azure, anything related to Microsoft stack. You will find something there, even for the upcoming events or something interactive learning. Go there and it's quite useful for upskilling if you would like to. Okay, let's move on to what's new in Azure, and starting with the public preview. In terms of the numbers, we are still going a bit low. It's not that high, but we pick quite interesting updates with main focus on the developers and app dev and cloud native space. The first one is the Azure Functions. So Azure Functions got a new extension for supporting the tables, even storage tables or the tables within the Cosmos DB. So there is a new extension for supporting input and output bindings for tables, as I said, for supporting both of that, and which includes new feature and new feature from the services, and it's available as a NuGet package if you would like to upgrade your Azure Functions to use this new input and output binding for this for communicating with these Azure tables. Another one is Azure App Service version 3 added a new capability in public preview for migration. So this is a new migration capability already built into this tiering version 3, into this new SKU. And basically it's to assist moving from version, for example, if you're already on ACE version 2, it's very helpful to give you capability to migrate from version 2 to version 3 as part of the SKU. And even if you have with the internal load balancer configuration, or even if you have an external facing ASC, so it supports both of those scenarios and use cases during the migration. And currently available in very limited regions, but luckily both of the regions in Australia are supported for this migration capability, and you can use that one. It's already available in Portal and CLI, and ARM template also supported as well. Azure Container Apps added VNet integration support to this fairly new service, one of the very recent services as in the cloud native space within the Azure. And using this update, still in public preview, you can deploy your Azure Container Apps environment, which is the hosting part of the service, into any existing virtual network, or even you can create a new virtual network and deploy it straight away into that virtual network and communicate with all other PaaS services privately, or all other services within the Azure in a privately manner. So that's another feature coming to this service. Azure Static Apps got a new kind of an update or a SKU thing called Enterprise Grade Edge. So this is a new update that combines a couple of services and a couple of things within the Microsoft Azure for static web apps. It's a combination of Azure Front Door, Azure Static Apps, and Azure Standard CDN. So all of that, you can get a mix of all these three services as a single service, and it's very useful for basically enhancing the security, enhancing the speed of your website and application, especially in terms of the page loads, and optimizing the reliability at the global scale, because it has a global presence as I think over 100 or 118 edge locations as well. So that's quite good if you want to globally scale your Azure Static Web Apps and take it to the enterprise use. Azure API Management also got a new update, and it's for certificate support. And this is a new update as part of the API Management service, which enables you to easily secure your API management instance for your custom domains. If you want to use your custom domain with your API management instance, and gives you a free certificate, and it's a fully managed. It's as part of the fully managed service. You get that as part of the service and free, and it's available, I believe, in all the regions now, and at extra and without any extra charge to the service. So it's already included and built into the service, which is quite useful for making all your API gateways secure freely. AKS got few updates as well. Kubernetes version 1.23 is supported. So for this Kubernetes version, it is added to the AKS in preview, obviously. And one of the very important features which you can get for AKS cluster by upgrading to Kubernetes 1.23 is you can start benefit from the dual stack for networking. For example, if you want to start playing around with the IP version 4 and IP version 6, so you can upgrade to this version for your AKS clusters, and you should be all good to start exploring this feature, which will be going GA soon. AKS version alias support also is another update coming to the AKS. So that's quite interesting update as well, because when you are provisioning or upgrading your AKS cluster, so you need to specify all the versions. For example, the minor version, for example, in 1.23 is one. Major version, minor version, 23, and the patch number. Sometimes it comes with the patch number. With this alias support, basically Azure eliminates specifying that patch number, and you can only rely on the minor and major and minor version of the Kubernetes, and by default and automatically Azure picks the highest patch available for you, so you don't need to worry about specifying the patch for when you are upgrading or provisioning a new cluster. Another feature for the AKS is persistent volume backup. It's in private preview again. And with this release and update, basically you can leverage Azure Backup Service for the capability of backup and restore the persistent volume of your AKS cluster. So that's quite interesting update coming to the AKS as well, and very useful, especially if you want to move your persistent volumes between, for example, clusters, or take it to another cluster for testing and such. These are public preview. We picked as part of the cloud native space. If there is any question, as usual, please pump them in the chat, and our friend in the background will pick, and then we can get to the question. I don't think there is any. Okay, let's move on to the GA announcements and updates. Azure Functions got a new PowerShell support on Linux OS GA. So this feature is GA, and you can start using that in the production. So with this update, basically you can develop Azure Functions using PowerShell and using Azure Functions runtime version 4 on Linux OS and on all hosting plans as well. So regardless of the hosting plan, you can use this feature for hosting PowerShell Azure Functions and on the Linux OS. API management got another feature in GA, which is embedding the custom HTML in the developer portal. That's another interesting feature coming to the API management, and very useful, especially when you want to customize the developer portal. So with this update, you can use the custom HTML code widget to extend that developer portal functionality. So previously it was different, but now it's natively supported by this custom HTML code widget, and you can customize the entire portal using this widget. For example, if you want to embed a video or putting a form from Microsoft Form, or different kind of capabilities similar which you can put in HTML. Azure Map got few updates around, for example, historical weather, air quality, and tropical storm. So these are updates which are GA as part of the Azure Maps APIs. And these are new features added to the Azure Maps APIs for Azure Map Weather Service, which is part of the Azure Map actually. And all, as you may know, all Azure Maps Weather gets all the data from a global service provider, AccuWeather, and you can start using that one, for example, for getting the historical weather data or air quality data from different part of the globe, and use that in your application, integrate that into your application. And if you refer to the documentation, you can find all the details for each of these APIs, for example, for historical weather, air quality, and tropical storms, for building that one. I skip the details for the sake of time here. AKS Ultra Disk support is GA now. Another interesting feature coming to AKS service. If you know, Azure Ultra Disk offer high throughput, high IOPS, and which is quite useful, especially when when they offer consistent low latency disk storage for applications, specifically very well suited for data intensive workloads. So now they are supported by AKS service, and which you can start provisioning your AKS nodes using Azure Ultra Disk. Another benefit of the Azure Ultra Disk is you can benefit from the ability of dynamically change the performance based on the workloads, performance of the SSD, the disk itself, based on the performance of the workloads and how they are performing, and dynamically platform adopt that one for your disk and Ultra Disk. AKS Container D support is added for Windows-based clusters and Windows containers. Container D is another container runtime similar to Docker runtime, for example, and it's offering enhanced pod creation, especially in terms of the speed when you're creating the pod, and the stability as well. Few months back, Microsoft announced that they are going to move on from Docker runtime entirely in the AKS support in the AKS cluster from version from the time that they're going to support Kubernetes 1.19, and from that time, even they changed the default runtime for the AKS to Container D from Docker container. And now with the, I think with version 1.20 for Windows containers, they're going to support Container D for Windows pods and Windows workloads as well, Windows containers. And from version when the Kubernetes version 1.23 comes to AKS support, which is in preview now, but when it's GA, they completely move on to Container D support, and Docker runtime will be removed from AKS cluster. So from this time, when you receive 1.23, and once this is GA, especially if you are working with the Windows containers, that's a good timing to start testing that one and make sure you don't face any issue or problem by the time that moving to Container D comes to the AKS. Upgrade event support as well is added, and it's GA now. So this update offers a new set of events which enables you to monitor and constantly monitor the upgrade process and easily see what's going on, what's happening when the cluster getting upgrade. And basically you can see all the events within the Azure Monitor, and you can see you can use that one within the Azure portal itself, or even you can use with the Azure CLI to get all those events. So these are all the GA updates. I think we mainly focus on the cloud native space. Any questions? So many interactions happening in the chat. I'm not quite sure which of that is questions. Arafat, my friend in the background, will pick if there is any. Cool. If there is no any questions, let's move on to next section, which is the useful links. We normally, yeah, there is no question. Good. And thanks, Simon. Yep. So we talk about the new Breakpoint Show. Highly encouraged to see if you are working with Java applications and you are keen to understand what you can do and what you can achieve from Microsoft Azure for in terms of modernizing your Java application and bringing those workloads into Azure. That's going to be quite interesting. And as usual, please go and join the community newsletter if you are not already. Another effort by Microsoft Australia team, which you will get a curated content picked from the community events and different training available, and most recently tailored for you, which you can receive monthly. Quite useful content there as well. And yeah, so looks like there is no more questions. Let's take a short break and just for a few minutes, and then we move on to the main topic for this evening, which is adapting Azure Cognitive Search and basically how you can use the Azure Cognitive Search for your needs. Akansha is a Microsoft AI MVP from Altis, and she's with us this evening, and we'll go through for a deep dive what the service is and how we can use and leverage this service, integration with our application, and all the different aspects of using Azure Cognitive Search service. Thank you. I'll disappear for now, and yeah, let's bring up Akansha. Hello.
Oh, hello. Sorry, didn't realize I was coming in straight away.
Mute as usual. Typical. Classic.
Can you hear me? Oh no. Is this any better?
Yes, all good now.
Right.
Perfect. How are you?
It's worrying. I was like, I didn't expect to get in straight away either. I was like still trying to share my screen, and I'm like, oh no, there's everything going wrong. I'm good. How are we?
Feel free. You can. Yeah, you can share your screen even during the break, and then anytime it's good. So
Perfect.
over to you.
So we're not starting yet, are we? Are we taking a break, or am I kicking off?
Yeah, let's give 1 or 2 minutes break if the guys want to refresh the drinks or anything, and then we can start. Yeah, let's just start it straight at 6. 3 minutes.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna kick off now in a second. Let me just share my screen. And if anyone was looking at my tabs right before I was pulled off the stream, sorry about that. I'm just trying to shut things down in the background before my MacBook decided to overheat again. Right, okay. So Arafat, Simon, I've gone into presenter mode. So if there's questions or you can't hear me, can you just jump in and shout out from wherever you are? That would be great. But I think we'll just start off in the meantime. Welcome everyone to this evening. Today's a Wednesday, I think. I don't even know. Everything's just blending in together for me at this stage. But we're going to talk about Azure Cognitive Search today. My name is Akansha Malik, and let's just dive straight in. And I feel like I've said, let's just dive straight in about 6 times already. So I'm going to try and stop saying that now. But yeah, my name is Akansha. I am a Microsoft AI MVP here in Melbourne. So thank you for having me up in Sydney. It's great to see people sometimes, like I can see through the comments. I am of Asian descent. I've got tan skin, got short brown hair, and I'm wearing essentially just all black clothing today, just for a bit of accessibility in people's lives today. So without further ado, what I do in my life is I do a lot of machine learning and AI and random things that I get to try out with work. So I'm a managing consultant at Altus Consulting. If this is of interest, and hey, if you're looking to do some kind of Azure Cognitive Searching into your business, reach out. I would love to have a chat. So today's agenda is going to be Azure Cognitive Search. What is it? What the hell is this product? Because I know when I started looking into it, I'd never really heard of it before. But when I did and I figured out what I could do, it was pretty cool. So I decided to share with everyone else. We're going to look at the actual product, how it will ingest data and what is indexing, and also how can we build in AI into our search capabilities. So that's the plan for the next, I think, about half hour, 45 minutes, somewhere in the middle of that range. So if that's of interest, stick around. What we won't be covering is how can you connect these into specific applications or anything like that. A, because we don't have the time. B, because that's not really where my expertise sit. I enjoy building these things, and then I hand it over to developers who get to actually implement them to what they like to do. So what is a search engine? I think at this day and age, search engines have become so prevalent everywhere that we kind of forget what they are. We just take them for granted a little bit, because I know I do. But when you take a step back, and this is just to kind of get everyone on the same page for the rest of the session, they're just a database. Most people here will have come across databases. And at the end of the day, this is just a really, 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 really big database. When you think of Google and Bing, all the other search engines out there, what they're essentially doing is this huge, giant virtual space filled with information. It'll crawl through it all to find whatever you're specifically looking for. So maybe I'm looking for a hotel. Maybe I can finally come up to Sydney or Brisbane to actually see people again after all these lockdowns. So I might be looking for a hotel. So it'll crawl through every piece of information out there in your database, search specifically for hotel information. It'll index it. So it'll just basically figure out exactly what sits where. Like, okay, hotels are labeled like this, and they've got names, and they've got bedrooms, and they've got prices. It'll index everything, which is kind of your schema of the whole data set. And it'll rank them in terms of what you've searched for. Maybe I've searched for a hotel with a pool, and it'll just basically go through and put all the pool ones near the top. Very basic stuff. This is something we all know, and it's just reused, but just to kind of get these terms back into our head for the next little bit. Index is going to be a big term we're going to be using throughout the session. It is really important in these kind of context scenarios. So just keep in mind, we will be coming back to it over the next little bit. So what is Azure Cognitive Search? It is a AI-powered cloud search service for mobile and web app development. That is a very big, long mouthful. What is it actually? It's essentially a out-of-the-box creation, ready for you to basically not recreate the wheel. Google exists, Bing exists, everyone knows how to use it. But what about your own applications? What about your website that you might have on the side, or anything else, even at work or enterprise locations? You've got data and you need to be able to search through it quite efficiently at times. I mean, actually, now that I say that, pretty sure everyone want to be searching efficiently at all times. But that's what you want to be able to do. And you don't need to want to create a search engine from scratch every single time that need arises. And in this day and age, search is kind of a need on a daily, like even minutely basis, because there's just so much data being created out there. So what this is an out-of-the-box service ready for you to just lift it up and plug it into whatever solution you're looking for. We're just the way the session's gonna go tonight, I'll basically go through a quick explanation of terms and words that we'll go see, and then we'll do some demos for you to actually see how those words and terms that I'm talking about are implemented. So pricing tiers. Searching can be expensive, especially when it's out of the box. It can get quite expensive. And it's true, but also the other end of it is it can also stay pretty cheap depending on the size of your data. So all of the demos I'm showing you today are on the free service tier. So if your website's fairly small, your data set isn't that big, but you still need to be able to implement some kind of search across the whole thing, you might get away with using just the free tier and not have to pay for the services, which is always great. You might just have to pay for your storage. But there's different parts to it. And as you can see in the diagram here, most of the things are fine, but replicas and partitions, I'm just going to focus on exactly what those mean, just so you understand those going forward. So partitions basically allow your service to store and search through more documents. And what this means is just it relates to your data, right? How much data do you need to be storing? And depending on that, you'll decide exactly how many partitions you need. That's all that manages. And your replicas allow exactly how many search queries can be handled at any given time by the platform. So what you need to be able to figure out is how much data you need to search through and how often will it be searched. Based on those two things, which are your replicas and partitions, that'll help you decide what your pricing tier will be. If you've never heard of SLAs, maybe this doesn't apply to you at all, because if you've never heard of them, you've never looked out for them. SLA is a service level agreement that Microsoft offers just for enterprise people who might be listening. All this really means is for read-only SLAs that you want your service available to be able to read from 99% of the time, you need 2 replicas. And if you want to read and write SLA, you need 3 replicas at a minimum. Just some requirements around that. So if you don't need your service to be up 99% of the time guaranteed, you don't need to create multiple different replicas. So that was all my words for this little section. We will come back to them in a bit, but let's dive into a demo. How do we actually create Azure Cognitive Search? Let me go into our favorite place, which is the home, the portal, and we're going to search for search, which is, that's a weird one to take around, but we're going to search for search and we'll find cognitive search. I've said search so many times, I don't even know what it means anymore. But from here, you can hit create. And this is kind of one of my favorite parts of Azure Cognitive Search, which every single UI part of creating new products or new services across Azure stays very systematically similar, I guess is the term. I can't think of the UX term for this, but the UI is very appealing in that context. So if you're ever trying something new, it's always going to be accessible for you because you've kind of seen it before if you've used Azure at all. As always, you need a subscription for you to be built. At the end of the day, even if it is a free one that you're looking to use, you will need some kind of subscription. A resource group, you can either choose one that you've already created. There's a bunch of them there that I have for other things, or you can create a new one right here. I'm just going to call this Sanchez Sydney test. Let's do that because if I could spell Sydney, that'd be a great start. And that can be there. We'll give our service some name. Sydney user group, let's give it that one. And in terms of the location, you can pick wherever you want. You might have storage regulations that you might need to follow in terms of your data must be stored in Australia or somewhere else. Feel free to pick that place. Usually I just kind of pick whichever is the closest to myself. The one thing I do want to point out here is if we are looking to add any kind of AI enrichments to your search capabilities, which we will be covering at a later stage of the session, just to point out there, those leverage Azure Cognitive Services, which is a bit different than the search. But because it leverages those, you need to make sure that the location you put your search service in also has cognitive services available in it. Just a pointer, most of the big ones will have almost everything in there. So you can have a look, but yeah, at the moment, I'll just leave it at the best US 2. This is where you can change your pricing tier because I've already created a free one. You will kind of force me into a paid one to look at. Maybe let's go with the basic just in case. So those are the kind of ones that we just run through. You need to figure out exactly what your partitions and replica needs are based on your data and querying needs. So this is where you get to choose how many partitions and replicas you want. So if you want and read SLA, 99% availability, you need 2 replicas. If you want 3 for a read and write, off you go. You can pick and choose from there. And that's essentially kind of it. This is where you go down to reviewing and creating your service, which I won't actually do because I have created one for you here. And I'm also terrified of creating services and then not deleting them and then getting charged at the later stage. I have done that too many times for it to be okay. So that's essentially it in terms of how you create a service. You just hit create, and once it's deployed all your things, it brings you back into something that looks like this. It's just a page where it gives you kind of different options to go and look at other things that you might want to do. You can use AI. It tells you, it kind of brings you into the documents and stuff. The docs for this are absolutely great. If you do end up trying this afterwards, really great place to start off with. A lot of things that I'm going through are kind of a TLDR version of the Microsoft Docs. Definitely would recommend those. Okay, so look, with that, we've got created a whole search service. Let's go back to our presentation for a bit and just talk through some of those things that we went through a little bit, and we will be going through. I can see comments are kind of shooting through, which I'm not going to pause and look at the moment. I take that back. 100% just paused and looked at them for a second, but I don't think I can see any questions at the moment. So I'm just going to jump back into the notes. Okay, so we just had a demo. We've seen how to create a service. It's now been set up. What do you do next? The next thing, now that you can search something, you need the data. You need the data to be searched on. It's great that you have a search facility, but if you've got no data to search from, it's kind of pointless. So there's two main ways that Azure Cognitive Search works, and how do you connect your data up to it. So there's a push way, where you can push your data into the service. So this is done programmatically. You'll have to code up your solution and connect it all up into the right places. It also has the ability to then connect to any data source, doesn't matter where it's sitting, because you're coding it up bespoke to your specific data set and connecting to your service. Can do with anything. And it also offers a really, really low latency. So if you're dealing with a solution where the minute that data is put into a database, it needs to be searchable, this will be kind of, you have to go with this option, because at that point, like if that's a need, there you go, that's your option. The other alternate option is the pull method, where the service itself can go and pull your data into it. Sorry, the push and pull, I don't know if it works for other people. It makes sense in my head. But this is a more of an automatic upload, where I go into Azure Cognitive Search, which is what I'll show you in a minute. And I just tell it to go, and I'll just point it to the right places and be like, go get my data from there. It's through the UI interface, which means it's a lot easier in terms of low code abilities. And it's also just quicker because I don't have to sit down and create connections and codes and stuff. However, because of that, it does have limited data sources, because they need to code up kind of the back end of how it will connect and where it will read from. Another thing to, again, point out about the AI part of it, if you do want to add AI enrichments at a later stage, you need to use the pull method, because that's where it is, that's kind of the only place you can do it from at the moment. They are working on expanding that. I haven't checked if they've expanded that yet. I'm not going to lie, I should have. But definitely pull is going to be the place you need to be for that at the moment. So with that, some more terms to be explained. Indexes and indexers. So what is the difference? You'll see these terms kind of flying around a little bit. Index is a table, and an indexer places the data into the table. A really quick kind of example, I guess, to this would be, if you think about your kitchen, you've just cooked dinner, great, you've had a really nice dinner. Well, I mean, I'm hoping you're not doing that right now and you're actually just quietly sitting there and listening to me talk. But if you are cooking dinner, fair play to yourself. After you cook dinner, there'll be dishes to do. And if you think about your kitchen, there's a space for everything, right? There's a cupboard, which all your plates go into. There's a drawer for all your cutlery. There's another one for pots. You have a schema in place for your kitchen where you want things to go to. This is exactly it. An index is that schema. It just has labeled everything and what will go where and things like that. An indexer will pick those things up and put them into the right place under that index. So in my kitchen, I am my indexer. When I've done the dishes, I need to put them back into those right places. So when I'm putting them away, I am my indexer in that kitchen index. So that's essentially kind of what it means. If you want to use other examples, feel free to think those through. That was the first one that jumped into my head, and now it's stuck with me. So that's essentially what those are. And a few more terms, and then I swear we will be back in a demo and you'll see those live happening and understand what those mean. Indexes have attributes, and these are every single part of an index, that schema that we built. So a cupboard is a schema. It'll have different attributes to it that you can assign. It'll always have a primary key, just so that it can be distinguished when the terms go underneath it. The things you put into it can be retrievable, filterable, sortable, facetable, and searchable. That is not face table, and I keep calling that in my head. It's facetable. And these are just kind of different search abilities, right? So you want, when you're looking up something to search, Do you want a specific field to be retrievable in that search? So if you think about Google or Bing, when you type something into the search bar, things come up as options for you to search on. Do you want that to happen? Do you want the data you look up to be filterable for that specific field? So if you think about a shoe store online, like a retail shoe store, when you go into it, you want your data to be filterable on maybe the shoe size. I don't really care if there's a size 8 shoe available when all I need to be looking for is size 5. So is that specific field filterable, sortable, all these kind of things? I mean, I feel like the rest of our kind of fairly self-explanatory. When you search for something, is this term the thing that you can actually put into the search bar for results? So with that, that's all the words I had to explain for this part of it. We'll jump back again into the demo. So we'll actually be using a lot of these terms now, which is why I just wanted to kind of clarify it. You'll see them in use in 2 seconds. So now that we have our service, we want to import the data. So this is where I was saying this is the pull method. It'll go through and actually pull your data in. You can use multiple different data sources. So these are the ones that can already be created. SharePoint Online is now in preview. They are adding more and more of these as they go, as you can see, because things are coming up in preview. They are working on it. So for the moment, let's just sample ones, mostly because it takes effort to store data and recreate data and stuff like that. But this is easier. And it's got really big data sets in here that I can kind of very quickly show you. So I've connected my data. So this is a SQL database. This is the step where you can add any AI to it. We will come back to an AI example. I'm going to skip this for now, just so I'm not overloading everyone with too many details. But this is my index. And this is kind of where you describe and detail your index that I talked about, that schema. Excuse me. I feel like I've just been talking very quickly and very loudly at people. But what you need to do is give it a name. Let's just call this, I think it's kind of already come up with something, but I'm just going to add Sydney at the end of it just so I can remember it and give it a little bit different one. So listing ID is the primary field here, as you can see by the key. And just to point out, like I haven't done any work on this behind the scenes. Like this is what the service itself has kind of pulled out from the data. And it's like, okay, this is what your data looks like. And I think this is what your index will look like. All on its own. All of these fields have been like pre-filled in based on the type of data it is. I'll go through that now. So this is where you kind of pick and choose exactly what you want your index to look like, your schema of the whole search. So if I can use a mouse very slowly, that'd be a good start. So this is a data set that is all about hotels. So when you think about a hotel and you want to search it, you want a name, how many beds does it have? What's the description of the hotel? How big is it? How many kind of... Do I really care about like how many square feet does it have? I don't know, but some people might. The street, where is it? What region? Like obviously very key details. So this is all my details. Everything at the moment is retrievable. So when I search, all that information will come back once I search it. That's what the retrievable means. Filterable. And do I want it to be filterable by how many beds or bats it has? Yeah, probably. Like I want to be able to say I want a, like, I don't know, 2-bedroom hotel. I don't know if that exists in my head. Have I looked at hotels in a very long time? No, lockdowns have kind of killed me, but so on and so forth. What you will notice, there is no option for this field to be searchable. And when you think that one through, it does make sense because as you can see in type, this is a number. And if you start looking up numbers in terms of beds and baths, it's like 2 beds. If you just search for 2, that is just going to be unbelievably hard to figure out what that means, to the system, but also to yourself. What does 2 mean? Is it the number like hotel, the street number, the beds? Who cares about the number of beds in a search format? So it does a lot of that kind of work for you. If something doesn't look right, you can feel free to go like on tick boxes and pick them in. If you don't want every single field to be searchable, you can go take those out. You can actually also add extra fields if you wanted to. I'm spending a lot of time on the screen because of the fact once you pick whatever your schema looks like, you can actually go back and change that. You essentially have to delete your index that you've created and recreate it and then do an indexer to push all your data against it. So just be really kind of aware of that part. Go through it, take your time at this stage, just so you don't have to repeat the work to go all through it. And I just want to also point out, I didn't tell it what languages the data was in. The data itself has descriptions in multiple different languages, and I was actually able to pick those up himself. Like, great, makes my life a lot easier that I don't have to say, hey, this is English and this is German. It does that all itself. So it's already got a lot of things happening in the back end in terms of the AI parts of things that are moving around in there. But once I'm happy with that, I can create an indexer. So like we talked about the kitchen, I've just moved into this empty house. I've detailed what will go where in my kitchen. And now I'm going to start putting things into it. So the first time you do it, if you're moving in once, great. You can kind of put everything in one batch. Or maybe this is a commercial kitchen. Sorry, maybe this kitchen example isn't working, but maybe it's a commercial kitchen. And every single day, things need to be going through at the end of the day back into their places. So you might need a schedule set up on it. For this one, I just kind of set it off once off. And you can add more things to it and things like that. I'm just ignoring all the little triangles of errors and things like that at the moment, mostly because these have already been created, which is why it's kind of warning me that, hey, iffy, please watch out. But that's it. That's all I've had to do. I've got my data, I've attached it, I've defined my target schema that I wanted to read in, and then I've told it to go put all the data against it. Like, go figure yourself out in the background, please. So very little code involved here, which I'm a big fan of. It makes things so much more accessible for other people to be using. Once you've hit go, you can find your indexes over here. So you can see the hotel sample data that we just looked at had 50 documents in it that I put against it. And you can also see if the indexer succeeded. So I was like, yep, I did 50 out of 50 and I went through and did it. So let's have a quick look at the sample index. So here, this is basically a search, kind of a mock-up search tool they can use. So let's look at, okay, these are hotels, right? That's the data set I'm looking at. Yes, hotels. So maybe I want a spa in this hotel. I would love a hotel with a spa right now to be able to go away to, maybe someday soon. And what you'll see is it comes back with a bunch of searches, and it says, this one says you can unwind at the spa. Okay, and it's on site, even better. Maybe I do want to say at Santa Fe Stay. That's a very confusing name, Santa Fe Stay. I'm just going to trip over those words. But it brings back all the different aspects to it. You can limit exactly what you want to search. The query strings and stuff, there's loads more options in terms of how you can look things up in the search documents. Off you go, give it a shot. It's actually quite fun trying to like find different things within this. Maybe I mentioned the beach. Maybe I do want to actually, like, the spa is great and all, but like a beach holiday would be absolutely great. Melbourne, as we know, it's a bit of hit and miss with beaches sometimes in the city. But if I do want the beach, what will it bring back to me? So I want you to kind of think back to the start of the presentation when I talked a little bit about kind of crawling and indexing and ranking about search engines. So this is essentially what it's doing. It's crawling through all my data. I've specifically asked for beach-related things. So it's found all the beach-related things in my index, and it's ranked them in order of like what it thinks is like most suitable to what my search has been. So the first hotel that came back was a Nova Hotel and Spa, and apparently it's only 6 miles from the beach. Like, that sounds great to me. And you can kind of see the different options of their rooms that they might have. Let's go scroll quite further down. They've got a lot of rooms apparently. And they've also got a Lady of the Lake B&B. I wonder why. Oh, okay, because it says nature is home on the beach. It's like, if it's a lake, it's not a beach. But apparently beach has been in the description. I've just seen a comment saying that it was renovated in 1973. Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to stay there. But also, maybe I can put that into a search filter and be like, actually, I don't want anything built in the 1973. I don't think that's a filterable sort, but things you can do are like limitless. But I looked for beach in English. What if, in the same context, I just wanted to be able to search in French? It's the only other language I know, so I'm going to just search on that. So plage in French is also the beach. And let's just, scroll back to the top, sorry. This is what I came back with when I searched for the plage. And I thought this was a little bit interesting, I'm not going to lie, where when I'm searching for the exact same term, but it's coming back with different like rankings of the hotels as I've done it. So this one, the first one that came out was a Whitefish Lodge and Suites. Great, but I mean, it says luxury, so I'm like, okay, maybe this does sound fun. It does have a beach club, this one. Oh, and natural hot springs. Maybe I do want to just actually go here. I think what this is just showing me is just like, I just really need a holiday. I think that's what we're coming down to. But all this means is, look, it's really fun to kind of play around with this and give it a shot and see where you can go with it. And you can fully test it out before you actually integrate it anywhere else, which I thought was really, really handy, where you don't need to spin up a service to be able to really quickly test what you've actually built. So there's another data set here. This is a lot bigger. It's about 5,000 documents. So this is all about real estate. And what I'll show you here is a quick demo app. And this is kind of like mocking up a similar system to kind of what normal search website looks like for you if you want. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit so people can see. This is kind of what you're used to seeing, right? You see a search bar, you see things that'll come back here, maybe some filterable options over on the left. So, yep, okay, look, it's already kind of picked up based on the data what fields might go where. So in thumbnail, it's like, yeah, okay, I think the thumbnail looks like it'll be the image and it's picked that up. Don't want the city as a title and then a description. Do you know what? Okay, let's see what this creates. So basically just creates a HTML page. And if I search star, it's very quickly mocked this up. Like this isn't something I downloaded before or anything like that. I just did it live where I've created an app where it's just like, okay, I want the city name at the top and then a description of the house that I'm looking at. But that doesn't really make sense, right? Maybe I actually want the street address or like the price. Actually, the price would make a lot more sense if I'm looking at it in the context of real estate. So we can go back and we can change the title to price and try that. So on this one, let's do a search star. And the search up here is exactly the same as the one we were just looking at in the Explorer, where I was typing in all the words. It's the exact same search bar in terms of the queries you can put in there. I mean, the formatting could be a little bit better in terms of the pricing here, but those are the prices of all these different houses that I can look at and that I can go and filter through them. So I don't know why I would want to look at sold houses when I'm looking to buy in this context. And I find that really annoying. Real estate and like domain and stuff do that all the time where I'm looking for available houses and it's like, actually, it's already sold. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. Why are you showing me this? Maybe they need a better search engine. That would be Azure Cognitive Search. They can look at that. But you can filter it very quickly. Maybe I want to see just apartments. These are all houses that we can see. And it's kind of gone through. That actually still looks like a house to me. But anyway, maybe there's something wrong with the data. The others do look a lot more like apartments. And you can pick what city you want to be in. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's a very quick way to like, the first one of the search query, yes, it's a really quick way of prototyping and testing exactly what your search is returning to you. But if you're someone more visual and you actually need to be able to see how things will interact and how things will move around, the demo app is very, very handy. In the demo app, if I zoom back out a bit, you can actually also go through and like pick exactly what components you want on the sidebar. So the ones that I was just filtering on, you can go through and actually change what type, like how is it shown to you? Do you want a number range or like do you want a checkbox of different ranges? There's just so many options to play around with it. Like I genuinely like enjoy doing this demo mostly because it's just kind of always fun to do. So that was a quick way of pulling your data in and just getting searching on it. That's all you're doing. Let's go back to the slides so we can very quickly talk about maybe building some AI into it, like adding some smarts. What's going to be the difference? Let's just have a quick think through this. So if you think about the structured data flow, that was just what we've been looking at. So we've looked at a SQL database and a Cosmos database, I'm pretty sure from memory, are the two that we just looked at. I probably should have said that at the start. Sorry if I didn't. But what we had our data. We connected it all up with the data source connection. We defined an index schema, which was where we went through and picked the different bits and what attributes each part of the index will have. Define the indexer, how often the data is going to have to get pushed against it. Do you need it to be scheduled or is it a one-off batch system, whichever one you want? And then we created it and tested it. So that was essentially what we did. Let's look at the unstructured data workflow. And this is kind of where you really need any kind of AI enrichments attached to your data, right? Like if the data isn't in a table format, how do you work through maybe a PDF document and look for things in a search manner and things like that? Maybe you need to put in OCR to images. So this is where this comes in. And the difference here is going to be not really big. You're going to have your data. You're going to connect it up the data. You're going to add in the skill set. And this is where the only little change is where you're actually adding in, hey, these are the kind of skills, the AI enrichments I want to add in. I'll define my index like I did last time. Define the indexer, how often do I want it, and then create and test it. So not very different, it's just one extra step in it. So let's jump in and have a quick look at how we're going to do that. So in terms of data, let me show you quickly what the data looks like. So I've just put it into a blob store. It's not a big data set at all. It's like, I don't know, 12, 15 images. Might be easier to show you through here. I hope you can see it. But basically, there's a HTML file, there's a document, some images, text file, PNG, PDF, a mixture of everything you can think of that isn't a table format. So that's what's sitting in the blob store. Let's go back into our service, and we're going to import data because we want to connect up our data source. So we've got our sample data, we've created the sample, and let's look at, so I said it's in the blob data store. This is just how you would actually go through and set it all up. Let me show you. So this is going to be called Sydney blob. I really can't type Sydney today. Jeez. Wow. You can pick exactly what kind of data you want to pull through. Do you want just the content and metadata? I'm just going to leave it all, get everything in there. The connection string. So this is where I can get to exactly connect it up, and I really hope it's this one from memory. Oh, yeah, I think this is the one. And that's it. Like, I really, really enjoy like the interconnectedness of things, which is why I kind of usually prefer the GUI method of connecting things. I'm like, I don't want to go find the different string and query strings and attach them up. Not query strings, the connection strings. I don't want to find the keys and the passwords and things like that to other things and keep it updated. This does it all for me. It's done it all. It's found the right places. I don't want to pick a specific folder. It's already in there. And I hit next. So it's just detecting things, figuring out what's in my data set. It's still validating in a way, which is kind of annoying. I think it's just my Wi-Fi acting up a bit. Any day soon. Actually, I'm going to just try and very quickly look at questions if there's any. That'd be a good time to do that while we wait for this to go through. Okay, I think it's just Simon saying, if I can dream, I can find it. Maybe I'll find a nice little beach hotel for myself someday soon, which would be lovely. But anyway, sorry. So we've got our data, we've connected it up. We're now in the skills part. This is where this is the step I skipped the last time. So we can attach cognitive services. And this is kind of where, if you have a really specific thing you want to do, or a really custom kind of model around machine learning part of it you want to build for like your data, really bespoke solutions, off you go. Absolutely no, perfect. You can create that from here. It'll bring you straight into the cognitive services and let you connect it once it goes through all the sign-in check-ins and everything in the background. I was hoping it would be a lot faster. God, my internet would be slow. But this brings you straight into connecting and building out your cognitive services. So if you maybe are I don't know, let's think about what a company would be, which would have a lot of data in, say, PDFs. Law firms. If you're a law firm and you've got all this data kind of stored digitally, but you've got a really bespoke data set, right? Like you've got specific clients and you've got very niche things within each client, I guess, in terms of if your client is a healthcare client, will have really different data in those files compared to, I don't know, like a transport client, which will be very like healthcare, transport, really different data sets. So maybe you want to do a really train it up a custom model. Well, for the moment, because it's only a very small data set, I've skipped the step, and I'm just going to use the basic limited ones that I've already got, just the automatic ones. And it's kind of also just wanting to see how quickly it'll figure it out itself. And I kind of usually tend to recommend this before you actually start creating custom things. See how well kind of all these out-of-the-box products are working for you. Hey, if they're not giving the result, off you go, no problem. Most of these things don't take time in terms of like prototyping and testing these out. If the quick stuff works for you, don't recreate the wheel. It's become like a go-to saying at this stage in my life. But anyway, so we're going to create a skill set. Let's just call this the Sydney, if I can type Sydney correctly this time, Sydney blob. We're going to enable OCR, and we're going to merge everything in. So these are the different types of skills you can add to your data set. I want to extract people's names. Yep. Organization names. Yep. Short key location names. Why not? Like, let's just try everything at this stage. Maybe let's try everything, and then I only pick 3 things. But let's try those 3, and then we'll also try some of the image things. So let's create tags and identify celebrities. We'll see if Satya Nadella is identified as a celebrity. I guess he is. There's enough photos of him around the place. Surely that's considered there. And you can actually save all the things that you've created here into an enrichment as a knowledge store, which you can use in different places and again afterwards. It's a one-off time thing we're doing now. We're going to skip out. It's just clicking save button at the other end of things. So we're back again to the same workflow now. We've just added one extra step, which is getting our data. So this is all the metadata. There is a primary key as always. And then these are the extra kind of skill sets and enrichments that we've added into our data. And this is what we can actually search on. Okay, cool. I'm happy. If I wanted to add more filters and things to it, I can choose to do so. Let's just create an indexer from here. Skip to the next step, and it's not going to do that because I forgot to change the name. It'll validate this, and then it'll give you an option to create an indexer. And again, you can figure out your schedule. If you're going to keep getting data added into this blob store, maybe you want to go through it every day or every, I don't know, every 4 hours you want to do it. Like you can figure out your own custom numbers and levels and stuff. And then you hit submit once you've done that. That's all you do. I will go and show you what it looks like at the other end of things. So let me just show you what the data actually looks like, and then we can start searching for things in here. So some of the images, let's look at maybe this one first. So if you look at this image, this is in the data set. It's been kind of searched on a little bit. What do we want to search on? Do we want to search red maybe? Yeah, let's try to search red in that photo. There's a lot of red. So search equals red. Let's see what comes back. And actually the first thing that came back is that image. And you're going to wonder why I know this. And it's because, sorry, I should have minimized these. This is the one time I do miss a Windows device because I can't move things around as easily on them. So as you can see over here, it says there's content into this image and there's text. And that text says artific advantage. But what you'll see is it's actually reading from top to bottom and left to right. So the first thing it saw was artific. Like it's not the fact that it didn't understand artificial. It's just reading what's in this image and so on and so forth and going through it. And then it's gone and picked up Azure Redshirt Dev Tour, which is absolutely great because I searched for red and it's come back with red. Let's see if it's also picked up any image tags. So the things it's tagged this image with are text. Yep, there's a lot of text. Clothing, there's a person who's clothed. Good to see. Here's a sign. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big red sign in front of the box. There's some kind of designs in it. Yeah, Amsterdam looks pretty great in that image. And there's a man that's standing. Like that's a pretty like well put together image tag that has gone through. And if I remember correctly, sorry, I'm just realizing the fact that my battery is not charging. Give me 1 second to figure out why the hell that's not happening. Otherwise, I would have just disappeared on you in 2 seconds. This is going to be better. I really hope it'll be better. This is a bit worrying. Bear with me, folks. Okay, I think that's all I can do at the moment. So we'll figure out the rest in a second. But okay, let's figure that out. Let's look at Satya. And I've just dropped the whole room on the side. Wow, this is a really in-depth look into Azure Cognitive Search where I just break everything in my room. So we've got Satya Nadella. Okay, so we can look at either, let's search for maybe Satya, see what comes back. Oh, this is worrying me. Why is it not charging? So there's people. Okay, so it's found a file from the looks of it. So I'm figuring this out as we go with you. And there's multiple different organizations named in it. So there's obviously loads of content in here. And in there, Satya has been named somewhere as a person, which is why it's picked up this one. Maybe there's going to be other things. So, yep, that's another one. This one says organizations Microsoft Linux. And if you look at the image, it has Microsoft on Linux in the background, which is why I picked up this one. It's like, yep, those are organizations, and it's marked that correctly. It's like, that is the text in this image. Why can't I scroll further? Oh, it's at the bottom, that's why. And if you look at the image tags on this one, there's a person, there's some text, there's a man, there's a human face attached to it. There's clothing, glasses, and mail. And then the interesting one in this one, I think, is if you look at the actual caption that it's created for this image, where it says there's a person, man, cell phone, standing, holding front water. I think it's just the blue that it has got in the background. There's a table, there's wearing, it's holding, blah, blah, blah. So you can see what it's kind of figuring out as it's going. So that was a very quick look at kind of how you can add AI and enrichments into your data set from the background of it all. We can search for other things that if you want to pop things into the comments. I just saw one about the heart for no symbols. I think there is a way to search for emoticons. I just can't think of the query off the top of my head. But actually, I don't know. I question that now. It would be something in there. Like, I'm sure there'd be some way of looking that up. If it's mentioned in the text, it'll definitely be something that can come up as an emoticon. But I don't know about the image. Maybe if I look, oh, John, let's just try hard, see what comes up. Does it identify that? No, sorry, didn't pick up a heart anyway in the image. So maybe it hasn't got through to shapes already, but that's kind of where it's gotten to. So let me just dive back into a wrap up. I hope people are still with me and dealing with all these issues. So that was the unstructured data flow that we just went through. Got our data, connected it up, attached some AI, index, indexer, and testing. So overall, I hope you kind of have a somewhat idea of what the product is in terms of cognitive search, what it can do, how can you ingest your data and do some indexing on it, and then how can you build in some AI overall. So with that, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for bearing with me, I guess, through me apparently just trying to break everything apart as I try to just charge my laptop. But if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into chat. If you're looking at this afterwards, kind of when it's not live, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to, I'm sure I'm more than happy to help out wherever I can. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by the chat going through the corners. I keep forgetting words, but I'm always happy to reach out and chat to you if you have any questions and help wherever way I can. But yeah, thank you for listening to me.
All right. Thank you, Fanshawe. So thanks for presentation and the great demo. So I'm sure everyone got into the details of the service and all the bits and pieces shown by Fanshawe, how you can start leveraging that. And probably another good point is how you can integrate with those APIs into your own application, which is quite straightforward, as you can see all the APIs and everything on the screen as well. So, yep, good demo.
That's a good point. I should have mentioned that. Like, that's where all the APIs start from. But yes, it is fairly straightforward after that too. So I've been told by the developers I know.
Yeah, cool. Really, really great. So I believe I haven't seen any other question other than searching word that hard. Simon has a question for searching emoji code. So,
are you saying in terms of just the something like this? Shall we try that? I don't know. Ooh, it has come back with something. Let's figure out what this is.
yeah.
I feel like half of the fun in this is just like trying to figure out what it's found and why it's found it. Okay, I don't think that was an image because there's no image tags in that one. Location, North Pole. Interesting. Wonder what that document's about. I will search through it, Simon, and I will let you know, and I'll just comment it back in there instead of like having to search through multiple different things as we go. But I'll find it.
Oh, that's all good. All good, and thank you. Thanks for offering your contact details and everything, so all the guys know if you have any specific questions while start using the service or already using that one. Yeah, please reach out to Fanshawe. So I'm sure she's more than happy to help you with that one as she's mastering the service. Yep, absolutely great. So no more questions. So let's wrap the evening and then, yep, until the next time. So thanks everyone. Thank you everybody for joining us again this evening. A special thanks to our guest speaker for great demo and great getting to the details of the service. Another topic on the Azure as usual. And thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And until next time, let's wrap this evening. Thanks for supporting us. It's great to have you with us. No more questions. Bye.